Hello, friends. Rachel and her dots here. Carrie Roldan, we're happy to be with you. I am founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and I'm trying something different this week. So I was just telling Carrie, and I'm in the middle of a brain explosion moment in a good way. And I thought, can I stream to both of my YouTube channels at the same time? I have the option in my software, so I just gave it a go. So wherever you're seeing this, hello, we love you. And today we're going to talk about getting and giving unsolicited advice. And we're going to deep dive into it and just dissect a little bit of like what it might mean for you, what it might mean for others, and wrap our heads around it, because on the surface it can be a little annoying, but underneath there's a lot more to uncover.
So Rachel, we hi. We communicate a lot via Marco Polo, and you sent me a Marco Polo app and you said, I'm taking your advice, ha ha. We're going to have a conversation about unsolicited advice. But I actually don't remember where this came from. So what brought I'm sure I said it and yet I don't remember it. So what brought this up?
Just the general idea of it. I had a situation where I mentioned that something was annoying to me, and then I got a communication of like, oh, here's how to fix it. And this, it happens to everybody. Like my parents are always like, make sure you do this and make sure you do this, especially when I'm traveling. Like, I love my dad. He's amazing, but he's like, don't go hiking in Yellowstone. There are bears there. And I'm like, yes, I know. So just it happens all the time. And I don't think there's anyone alive who hasn't been the receiver of some unsolicited advice.
Yes. Yes. And I am guilty of giving it. I am super guilty of giving. And as it's interesting. So I will put myself in both shoes. So as a mom, it is super annoying when, especially a like young mom of a first child, when well-meaning people give you advice. I think that is, although that was one of my first lessons really in boundaries, was when I became a mom, then suddenly I was able to like hold my boundaries a little bit more. Like somehow they weren't just about me anymore. And man, advice comes left and right. And it's interesting because some of it was really good advice, but because I didn't ask for it, I wasn't able to receive it. Right? I just didn't want to freaking hear it. And I have been the giver of unsolicited advice like more often than I care to admit, from a place of like loving and honestly, I think of finding connection with people, like feeling like, oh, I can relate to you, and here, let me tell you what I did. Or what's amazing for that, and I can't. People say that they're like appreciative of my advice, but are they really? I don't know, because I certainly wasn't when I was the receiver of unsolicited advice. So yeah, so I guess one, if you guys are here watching us, let us know in the comments. We would actually love to hear about your situations either way with unsolicited advice. And I think I probably like I'm pretty good now at receiving unsolicited advice and smiling and nodding and then doing whatever the hell I please. But I could probably use some help in the not giving of it. Or the knowing what, like, I guess I know when. I'm just going to have a full conversation with myself while you nod. I guess I know when my advice is not wanted or not helpful. So I could probably do a better job at not giving it.
I mean, you guys, I'm in a rare mood today, so you're going to get a lot of behind the scenes from me. So when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was the biggest know-it-all you ever came into contact with. It was terrible. And I was very judgmental at the same time. There were reasons for that, like big life-changing things happened to me then, and I thought I knew the secret of the universe because of it. And I was just wanting to help everybody. And if I was in a religion, I would have been the biggest evangelist you ever seen. I would have been, I don't know. I was really annoying, like truly and deeply revoltingly annoying when I was young. And I got paid back for that. Like people all the time would come up to me and tell me to smile. People still do that to me. Females, hello, have you been told to smile lately? Because I have. Um, and like coming up to me, like never change, like about my teeth, even people always talk about, oh, like never fix that or whatever. Like people just assume they know you and they know what's best for you, or or they think they can relate to you, or they think they understand you when you say something. But I find, oh, and with my van, my RV van, people would stop me at stoplights and like tell me to roll down my window so they could tell me, never sell it, never sell it. I sold mine and I've always regretted it. And it's just maybe because I'm a smaller female, people feel like they have the right to like constantly tell me how to live my life. I don't know, but I've never appreciated it. And as someone who's been that person as well, I know that my unsolicited advice to others usually came from a place of, I know how to help you, even though you're not actively looking for help. And as I've gotten older, I've realized like every single person has the same access to information that I do. And we can only access the information that we're vibrating close to. So, my unsolicited advice to them, even if I think it's going to be helpful, is usually either just going to cause annoyance or bounce off or, just be a waste of my time and my energy. And so I've definitely been more aware of this in the last decade. And also my natural advice giving personality works for me because I work in a helping profession where I have coaching clients who ask me for advice. So, and in my sessions, I don't even really give advice. I just reflect and offer whatever they are wanting to talk about at the time. So there's been a lot of like acclamation in my life to deal with this tendency and this desire to help people, but in a more beneficial way for them. So, yeah. All right. That was a lot.
Well, you're actually helping me in talking about it because now I'm thinking about, oh, do I really give unsolicited advice? Right. So, here's what I have to say. Like when you were talking about your younger self and like for all kinds of reasons, I feel like youth is one of those reasons that we give unsolicited advice. There's something about early adulthood where we feel like, oh, we get it now. We've got the answers and we can't wait to tell everyone. And then something happens in like your 30s where you kind of realize, oh, maybe that's not true. And at least where I am in my 40s now, there's definitely more of a likelihood that I will keep my mouth shut now than in my 20s. And yeah, the 30s is, at least for me, it was like my realization around that. What I will say is, yes, same, right? I'm in a helping profession where people come to me literally for advice. So they're coming to me, whether it's for coaching, which is not really advice giving, but more it's coaching, or consulting, which is very much advice giving. Like, here's what I would do. So, yes, that is helpful to be in that profession. And I have found, even in that profession, and now that I'm thinking about in my dealings with people currently, I'm much more likely to ask, right? I'm much more likely to say, do you want my opinion on that? Or are you asking me for advice or did you just want to tell me, right? I am much more likely to ask the question ahead of time. Um, but I still will lovingly talk to strangers. I think the last time we were talking, I was telling you how someone had, well, last time we were talking on a live, um, how I had been shopping with a friend and she's like, how do you just, everywhere you go, you make people your friends. And I actually think that maybe unsolicited advice giving is one of the ways that I do that. like, or unsolicited help might be one of the ways that I believe that I'm endearing myself to people. Just having this.
That is so interesting. Like, you just brought something up for me. So I remember being early married, my early 20s, and you have to start doing things for yourself, like going to the store and, buying the tissues and the toilet paper. And I was doing that. I was at the store in the toilet paper aisle, and someone from my local diner came up to me and was like trying to help me figure out the cheapest possible toilet paper, like showing me that you can see like the unit cost, what's on sale and everything. And I was just like, what are you doing? I'm okay. I'm okay. And maybe because I've just received so much of it, I'm a little more sensitive, or it was back then. Now I just ignore it. But man, it was like, okay. And it almost made me feel like, and this wasn't their fault, this was my interpretation. It almost made me feel like I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm an adult. I can do this. It's okay. And I know it came from love and I felt it. And it was really wonderful of her to just do that. But it would also be really nice to just have someone say, "Hey, how you doing today? Funny that we both have to buy toilet paper," or something non non-intrusive, because sometimes, and I've noticed this about myself, which is why I'm bringing this up. This is not um I don't know how I feel about this exactly, but sometimes we feel like our worth comes from the benefit that we can bring to someone, right? The advice, that concrete, this will make your life better. And I'm going to tell it to you so that, like, I have a purpose in the world, so that I feel worthy. And it's coming from a place of lack sometimes when we're doing that. We're saying, like, I need to be of benefit to the world, or I'm not a good person, or I'm not a worthy person. And what I've learned definitely in my 30s is that that's not true. We're worthy just by existing. Like, we don't have to prove ourselves. We don't have to add anything concrete to this world. We don't need to be able to quantify our contribution in order to have made one. And I know in the past my unsolicited advice was like, here, I can be helpful to you. I can be a good person. And it's just not necessary. Like, you being you is enough. Me being me is enough. Saying hello is enough. Smiling is enough. And it's often much more well received at the same time. Hi, Corinne. Hi, Zach. Nice to see you guys.
Well, and that brings up what Zach is saying, which is some of the best advice is unsolicited in retrospect. So I'm thinking about that and of things where strangers have told me, or it's all attraction based, right? And so it really is about the energy that you're in, because I'm thinking about the stranger advice that I've received that like bounces right off, where I'm like, okay, grandma, whatever, or like, clearly you don't know me, right? That kind of advice. And then I'm thinking about all the amazing, wonderful pieces of unsolicited advice, or like people being like, here's a coupon for this, or here's it, right? Like, just randomly like finding me. Why me? I don't know. But I've gotten that, or like, hey, pick that shorter line, go over there to that, whatever, like secret tips, right? Pieces of advice that have come that have been really helpful to me. And yeah, I just think this is an interesting conversation around, and now, man, there's the comments are like flying in, but like, I've gotten some really good things. I don't know that I wish I could think of like something specific right now. Some really fun incidental things, like a coupon, or there's a secret, go in that line and you'll get the better deal, or like that sort of stuff that is really fun unsolicited advice. And I think the difference is that is nothing that I feel any sort of like personal, like, I'm thinking about advice around like how to talk to my kids would be received very differently than, oh, if you just go in the back and then ask for a guy named Mike, he'll give you, like, you know what I mean? It's a different kind of advice. Yeah. I'm gonna
I
read.
think that does make a big difference, right? If it's just like a little, it's a tip, it's a, you don't feel like it's coming from a place of judgment. That can be a really big difference. And you know, it doesn't have to be coming from a place of judgment, um, but oftentimes what is spurring that person to advise you is that they feel you need something, or you know what I mean? So there is a perception of lack there. Hey, Spreezak, nice to see you. Yeah. Where do we go from here? Like,
Well, so Corinne is saying she can relate to both giving the advice to endear herself to others and then also not liking receiving it because of all the unwanted, unsolicited advice she's received in her life. And I do feel, so this might go down gender lines, but I do feel like you said, well, maybe as a small woman, people feel this way. And I am like, I'm a regular sized woman, but I do feel that way too. And I do feel like oftentimes men have felt like they have the right to give me advice because they're a man and I'm a woman, right? In any situation. And it's interesting because some of that advice, again, has been appreciated, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that. And other times, and it is all about my energy and my vibration. But other times, I'm like, you know, get away from me, bro. I can figure this out. So, but I do think that probably, I don't know, I would actually love to ask the men who are watching. Is that something like, do you feel like women, because maybe it's just something I'm sensitive to, where I feel like I'm thinking about like car issues or something where like men feel like they have the right to tell me what to do because they're in a gender position of supposing to know more about cars, or if that's actually like I actually don't know very much about cars. So anyways, all that to be said is, yeah, this is an interesting conversation, and I like that we are approaching it from both sides of, oh crud, sometimes I give unsolicited advice and also I don't like receiving it, and it is usually because I do feel judged or underestimated.
yeah, I know, right? And again, that could just it is like if we are receiving that, we are creating that story, which I fully understand as well. But along those gender lines, you know, I don't fall squarely into a gender, which I've talked about before, but I do present very feminine usually. Um, and I definitely grew up figuring, yeah, I'm a female, right? So people have interacted with me in that way. And I used to go to a lot of concerts, a lot of like, you know, metal and hardcore and like stuff where there would be a lot of physical interaction, like in a mosh pit and stuff like that. And what I did appreciate was all of the unsolicited, like safety measures taken on my behalf because I am, again, a small female and a small boned woman. And without fail, at every single show, I would be down there putting myself not in the middle of the pit, but like on the outside so that I could be close to the band. And dudes would just like give me a nod and like kind of stand in back of me or in front of me or wherever they needed to be just to make sure I wasn't going to get punched in the face. And I did appreciate that. You know, there are a lot of times where I feel that like the camaraderie between strangers is a really genuine thing. And of course, when people are giving you unsolicited advice, they're feeling like it's genuine and they're just trying to be helpful. So I understand that. Um, it's just like, yeah, when it triggers something within you, like back off. That's real too. Um, and and I really like that, you know, we do have genders on this planet and everyone gets to choose where they fit, right? It's not just like, okay, you're born a certain sex. Um, but we do have, you know, gender roles from history and I think there's something to do with, you know, the hormones in the body and they produce different ways of thinking. And so I don't want to discount all of that because it can be a wonderful thing. It can be like a very synchronous thing. And I have appreciated a lot of that in my lifetime with, you know, cars or like more traditional male things. But at the same time, I think it is worthwhile to focus more on ourselves as well. And then in the moment, when if we are more aligned and we are more connected to ourselves, we'll recognize when someone is calling for us. You know, I've definitely been in situations where someone hasn't asked me for advice, but I have felt the compulsion, like they feel like they're like digging this out of me, and so I'm gonna say it. And then in those moments, it can be a little bit more of a co-creative thing, as opposed to coming from that place of lack and trying to help or judge, and then like speaking something from that place.
Yes. I'm thinking about that as as the giver and the receiver of advice. Yeah, right? I mean, ultimately it is all about us and our vibration. And even, right, when I'm thinking about things that have like this I'm thinking about things that have triggered me or my husband, and how like sometimes we'll both be in the same place, and he will perceive, oh, that person, can you believe they said that to me? They were like, and he's got this whole story in his head about how, they said that, but they really meant that, or can you believe whatever. And this could be unsolicited advice. I can't think of a specific example right now, but oftentimes it's just a perception of whatever was said. And I'm like, oh, I didn't get that at all. Like maybe they were just making a passing comment. And I'm wondering now about how many times that unsolicited advice that I have received, especially when it comes from like relatives, right? People, I think that's where it gets into trouble as we're heading into it's not even Halloween yet, but we're heading into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and like seeing family and being triggered by family and getting a lot of unsolicited advice, because let's face it, family thinks, at least many families, people think that they have a right to talk to you and tell you things that maybe they wouldn't tell other people in their life. But recognizing, oh, it is all about, just like you said, you can feel people's good intentions and you can feel people's judgment. And ultimately that even how it's all about how you're perceiving it from where you are on the inside.
Yeah. So when it comes down to what we're really talking about, can you keep your eyes on your own paper? Is what I like to say. Like from outside observing to inside observing. I know that, when I walk down the street and my neighbor tells me to smile, there have been times when I've said, you know, I'm probably the happiest person that you know. So it's okay if I walk down the street and I'm not like beaming with a smile. And then there are most times when I just like, like, okay. And when I'm thinking about myself, when I'm being in my life and doing my thing and following my inspirations, I am much less likely to be bothered by what anyone says to me, to notice like something wrong in my environment in order to like, give unsolicited advice. If I can just focus on my own happiness, my own alignment, my own desires, then I'm pretty much going to be okay. It's really just when I get too preoccupied with the world, watching the news or, talking to too many random people about things I don't care about, or, like compromising my own alignment and focus. That's really where all of this becomes relevant. So the more I focus on myself, which actually enhances my social life, in a funny way, because then I have more bandwidth to like talk to people about things I do care about, which is funny for introverts. Maybe it's different for extroverts, I'm not sure, but um, again, it's all vibrational. And if you are in a good vibrational place, then you are more impervious to things that are going to bother you.
So I'm going to let my dog in right now. I'll be right back, Rachel. She's been wondering what to do and how to get in the house.
Nice. Well,
okay, back.
Maybe we'll switch now to just advice. Well, unless you have more to say about unsolicited advice.
No, I think advice is a great topic. And I just wanted to say that whole taking care of yourself and introvert extrovert thing. One, you helped me so much when you said, Carrie, if it's best for you, it's best for everyone involved, right? That has been super helpful. And recognizing that you don't have to take the advice that comes your way, right? Like people, well-meaning people, so back to family, right? Like I give my kids advice all the time, right? Their stuff will be going on in their lives and I'll be like, well, you could look at it this way or you could look at it that way. And it's pretty obvious when I'm talking to them which way I think that they should look at it. But ultimately, right, whatever I think doesn't really matter. It's whatever they choose. And that introvert extrovert thing, that is an interesting thing for me because actually this is a good topic. I am so flipping triggered, like hardcore angry, kick you in the nuts kind of triggered by the words you need. Like I am like fired up angry right now with the thought of somebody starting a sentence, speaking to me and saying, you need to X, Y, and Z. You need to change the toilet paper roll. F you. You don't tell me what I need. You need to, get to bed at a decent hour. Go to hell. You don't know what I need. Like I am that fired up by those words. So I don't know if that triggered anybody else, but that is, I don't know. I don't even think that's advice. So Corinne, you're my people. Is that true for you, Rachel? Are you like, do those words trigger you the way they trigger me? Because I am like, pissed about those words.
Well, as I learned in the last few days, I am an Enneagram 5 and we don't do anger. So I can count on my hand how many times I've like yelled in my life. So I'm not triggered in that way, but I lump it into the same category as unsolicited advice. Like, and yes, I was more triggered than I have been in the last few years, but it definitely annoys me. Because I do a lot of things alone in the wilderness and like traveling wise, I get it all the time. Like, you need pepper spray. You need to take this course. You need to not do that. You know what I mean? And I hear it from a lot of different places, especially like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Social media, family, friends, all kinds of stuff. And it's annoying because how I interpret it at the time is like, you don't think I'm smart enough to know how to preserve my life. Like, you think I'm just like skiing. You think I'm just going to go ski off a cliff. Like, you think I'm just going to go do something that would, be totally unsafe and reckless. Like, that's not who I am. And if I was like that, then I don't think your advice would do much good. So it is a lot to take in.
Well, and what I find is interesting is that the people in my life who start sentences with, Carrie, you need to X, Y, or Z, they love me or they care about me. There's a couple of people in my life that tell me what to do. And that is ultimately what it comes down to, is like, don't you dare tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. Like, it is this very like childish, primal, you can't make me kind of a thing. What I recognize is those same people could get such a different result from me if they said, Carrie, I need for you to X, Y, and Z. Because ultimately that's what it's about, is that they have a need for me to do something. They have a need for me to stay safe. They have I mean, sometimes it is, they need me to go to the grocery store for them, or, whatever, like it could be, but ultimately, like, that's what it is that I can feel their projection and I'm pissed about it, because I would prefer honesty. I would prefer that they said, I need to feel safe. I need to feel that you're safe. So could you please take pepper spray with you? Right? Because then I'm not hiking around bears or wherever you are, Rachel. But if someone had said that, if I had said that to you, Rachel, I know you have got it going on and I need to feel like you're safe. So would you please just take pepper spray with you? You would be like, that is a ridiculous request, Carrie, or I already have pepper spray, Carrie, or whatever is true, right? But yeah, you got it. Like, such a different thing.
That is totally right on. Absolutely. And that's why it feels so repelling. That's because you don't get to decide what another person does or needs to do. And when you're doing that, you are undermining them. And it doesn't feel good on the other side, as much as you care, as much as you think you're coming from a genuine place. And people don't realize they're projecting. People don't realize that they are in their own need and just telling you what you need. Like, I get it. I've been there. And it's been something I've been very aware of in the last many years. So just like Carrie, we had this weird relationship with needs. When I was first married, I didn't know what needs were. I didn't know I had needs. I didn't know, Carrie was like, I don't have any needs. Um, and so it was a strange place to live in. And I was very open to being told what to do, because I didn't know how to construct myself or be myself. And so I constructed myself based on all the roles I thought I had to play. And it was really confusing and terrible. And then when I realized how to be an adult and be myself, that was quite an eye-opening thing. And so now in my long-term relationship, we both went into it having been in very interesting marriages and getting divorced and then coming together. And so we both had the same experience of, I'm a whole person. I'm going to make my own decisions, and we both are really on board with that. And so I never tell him when to go to bed or what to do, and he never tells me what to do. I used to say to people, like, have fun all the time, and even that, like, I don't like telling people what to do because I have your own experience. Like, if you have a really shitty time, that doesn't mean it was wrong. Like, I'm so hyper aware of, like, everything's cool, man, like, everything's great. Whatever happens is good, and you get to decide what that is. And I think part of that was realizing, like, I can never understand someone else's life path, someone else's choices, someone else's insides, as empathetic as I am and as psychic and intuitive as I am. And I can feel what someone is feeling specifically from time to time, but I don't do that unsolicited, right? I don't just go into someone's energy. So yeah, anyway, this is a long rant after you saying, yes, people can feel when you are projecting onto them, and it causes a repelling, and you're just getting back the energy that you're giving them.
Which is what so much of, back to unsolicited advice, right? So much unsolicited advice is projection. And that's when it feels bad, when the person is like, okay, buddy, right? It could be like, you're telling me something, you're projecting let's say the man who's trying to keep me safe and I don't need help being safe, right? Maybe something happened to his daughter or his wife or whatever. And he is like lovingly projecting that onto me. But it's still projecting. And I'm reading Judith's comment about she learned to say I messages from her daughter's preschool teacher. And let me tell you, so much of what we learn as parents or in preschool, right? Like so much of what preschool is so relevant to all day, every day. It's amazing, the things that we think we're learning about how to talk to our kids or whatever is just how to be decent human beings. We think that we get like smarter as we get older, but yeah, preschool's magic. And that time of life is everything. It's like that's everything. Yeah. This is Zach. It's a reflection of your own unconscious protection. Sure, yeah, that's what projection is, right? It's putting your stuff on other people, good or bad.
Yeah, and that's why it doesn't feel good. It's like, this isn't mine. Here, take this back.
I have a weird thing to talk about. It's not really advice, but it's going back to, you got me all fired up with the I need statements and or you need statements. So this is now a way that I understand that my husband communicates and how he actually loves, right? So I am in a place now where I can obviously it still gets under my skin, but my conscious mind will kick in and be like, this is him loving me, not him being an asshole. Oh, sorry, I said that. So I'm like trying not to cuss, but I really want to cuss. So yeah, like he'll say you need to X, Y, or Z. And sometimes I also recognize, because I've had this conversation with men, that men tend to communicate in directives and women tend to communicate with questions. So like he'll just say, take out the trash. And I will say, no, if you command me to take out the trash, I will not do it. That I'm going to go into a whole language thing, so bear with me. But if you ask me to, I'll do it. And he'll be like, fine, can you take out the trash? I'm like, sure. I make this whole production of like needing to be asked. I'm super annoying about it. But no matter how many times I go through that production, he will still say, or he'll say, hey, hand me that thing. And I will say, if you ask me, I'll do it. He say, I just did ask you. And I mean, now I'm saying it out loud, how annoying am I? But like, it really bothers me that he will just direct me to do things. And I will always ask. I will always say like, hey, could you please hand me that? Or, hey, would you mind taking out the trash? Right? I pose it as a question. But I've learned that men tend to speak with less words. They tend to think that they're just being more efficient. And women tend to feel like asking the question is more respectful. Where am I going with that? There was a point back with the need conversation. Well, when I think of it, I will get back to it. In the meantime, I'm laying that down for you guys, that man, language is super important to me. That was the other thing I was going to say is I've also learned that my husband grew up being spoken to that way. And part of the reason that he was spoken to that way is because his grandparents, Spanish was their first language. And in Spanish, you literally give commands like that. And it's not rude the way that it is in English. So all that to be said, there are so many like nuances. And I'm wanting to like not be triggered. And language still triggers me, even when the energy behind it is like comes from love. Like you need to stay safe, Carrie. And really it's, I need for you to stay safe. Or hand me that thing over there. Like I can hear it. It's a question. Or can you hand me that thing over there? But because it wasn't phrased as a question, I'm triggered. So now my question to everyone watching, as you're therapizing me you're all my therapy now, is this a me thing or is this a thing? Yeah. Am I just like letting myself be triggered?
Well, I think we have a lot of answers already, but as they come in, I will add that this is a lot like the Brene Brown, for me anyway. Are you in the arena with me? Then yeah, I will listen to what you say. If you are just an onlooker judging my process or thinking that I have holes in my system, then I'm not going to listen to what you say and it's going to bug me, or I'm just going to ignore it depending on the day. Like I I do put myself out there and I share my adventures and I share a lot of my life and a lot of my process and a lot of my raw moments. And so I'm going to get comments and stuff, and I will listen to you if I know you're right there with me, or you did this last year, or like, you know what I mean? So it is also like context. Like, do you have relevant experience for me, or are you just, like you're saying, do you need something for me? Like, do you need something for yourself for me to do or whatever?
That's what I was gonna say about that. So I do wanna get the comments. Thank you, guys. And, I am recognizing that so this is definitely me thing. Um, I sometimes I there are things that make me feel resentful, and those things are typically when someone will ask something of me that I would never ask of them. And this is an interesting thing, right? As much as my husband says, "You need," he also says, "I need." I need you to stop at Target and get me something. I need you to whatever. And I often feel resentful about those things because if I need something, I will do it. I won't ask him to do it. And I recognize, oh, that's a me thing. Like that's actually like probably like he feels loved and supported that he can call me up and be like, "Hey, I really need you to do this for me." And that I will do it. And I feel angered that he needs something from me. So there we go. That is a me thing. But now we're not on unsolicited advice as much as we are just on language and the nuances behind it and how ultimately, oh, thank God everything is energy, right? Thank God we can take a deep breath and tune in to when someone is projecting and when someone is like, hey, I need you to stop at Target. Ah,
Well, Carrie, you are in good hands. Heather was a psychologist. Thank you, Heather, for being here for our therapy session.
oh, Heather. Yes. Yeah.
And Corinne is saying she can't pinpoint when, but she learned this lesson and it changed the process her mind goes through when she wants to give unsolicited advice. Sometimes insecurity will win out, and I'll give the advice anyway. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it sounds like we're being super harsh, and that's because we're human. We get triggered too. But at the same time, I think we both recognize like it is pretty harmless. It's just something that's going to happen. We live on a planet with billions of other people, and we have to interact. So not every interaction is going to be what we want it to be, and that's okay.
And the older I've gotten, the more that I can receive unsolicited advice and just let it pass through me,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to maybe my younger self or my triggered self when someone says you need, right? Maybe as I get older, I will also let that pass through me. But to recognize, okay, so they're going to tell me this advice. I don't have to take it. I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to smile when someone says smile, but I also don't have to flip them off. Right? Like I think that's the thing. Like I can just let it pass through me. Those are the words that are coming out of me right now. I bounce off me maybe, but like it usually does pass through me, right? It hits me and I can either keep it in, I can let it bounce around inside of there and get all pissy about it and like then want to throw it back, or I can just let it go through me. And I think my younger self maybe would have gotten defensive
Mm-hmm.
and it would have bounced around in there for a while and that stupid person and that lame advice and what do they know and da da da. And the older I've gotten, the more I've been able to just relax and be like, that sweet man or old lady or whatever. And let it go.
Yeah, I think that's really all we can do, and Carrie and I talk all the time about the importance of having the right to feel good and choosing to feel good and choosing how you want to feel. And so in those moments that I do get triggered, I say to myself after a moment of annoyance, well, how do I want to feel right now? Do I want to feel frustrated? Do I want to feel annoyed? Is it really worth my time to do that? No. So I'll have a little laugh and then, go back to what I was doing and feeling better. So,
Well, we
yeah.
have lots of comments now. So Heather, thanks. One of the things about my personality, Rachel and I were talking about personality tests the other day. So on the DISC leadership thing, I'm an I. I think that means I don't remember what it needs because I's don't do details well. But I think it means I'm an inspirational leader, I think, but it also means that like I can't do ingenuine at all. Like I can't. So can't help but be honest. So I'm glad that it's helpful.
Yes.
um,
Thank you. We're glad you're here.
yeah, super glad you're here. And Derek, I think it's Derek Spreezak, not Spreezak Derek, but either way, whichever one you are. Yes, it is about energy. It's more about energy than words. And um, as anybody who's watched this channel for a while can probably tell you, man, do I get hung up on words? Do I get hung because words do have energy, right? And different words, the same words can mean something very different to two different people based on the energy like they received, how they perceive that word in the beginning. So, yeah, that's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But for sure, I think um the energy behind that's why Heather was talking about tone, right? The energy behind your words. Absolutely. Absolutely it matters. And I think that's what we can go and we can leave this conversation. I feel like I could leave this conversation anyways, feeling like I'm never going to be perfect. I'm reminded of a quote that says people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. And so ultimately, that's what this is really about, right? It's not about the advice, it's about how it made them feel.
Which unfortunately, we can't know that for someone else. I really love just embodying to me the fact slash idea, whatever you want to call it, that no one needs to understand me for me to have a loving and fulfilling life. It doesn't need to be my mission to be understood, even by my partner. He's never going to understand me whatsoever. And sure, I have other friends that have more in common with maybe my insides and how I think, but they are never going to understand me either. And giving that up is so liberating. And it also means like you don't have to worry about understanding anyone else. For me, I know that when I follow my own truth, keep my eyes on my own paper, really focus inwardly on my feeling, my vibration, that is when I am genuinely most helpful to other people. And, when I do feel that, like, oh, maybe they would like to know this, I could do what Judith is saying, which Carrie had mentioned earlier. Like, would you like help with that? Would you like some advice? Right. And so that really gives the person the opportunity to say yes or no, or what experience do you have here? I'd love to hear it. Or maybe they want to know more about you and your thing rather than you putting some general advice on them. So, it's all about us. We are all beautiful, incredible, divine beings with so much wisdom and love to give. And also, there's never a lack in the outside of us that needs to be filled. So, having our strong embodiment and grounding in ourselves, I think, is the best gift we can ever give to the world.
And you touched on that word understanding. And Heather says, that's a big one for me, wanting to be understood. Got ideas, advice, how about how to release that? So here's what I will say about understanding is we're here not to understand, but to experience, right? Like that's really why we're here in our humanness. It is our humanness that thinks it's here to understand, right? Like our humanness, our brains really want to figure everything out, really want to know everything, really want to have understanding. But the bigger part of us is not here for understanding. It is here for experiencing. Like the bigger part of us, maybe it already has the understanding, but it's not about like this, right? Which this is where I feel like understanding lives. It's about just experiencing. It's about being. And so that's been really helpful to me, is recognizing like I'm not here to understand. I'm never going to understand. But I'm here to experience. I'm here to love. Right? Same, Rachel. My husband is never going to completely get me. I mean, I get him and he gets me, and like we're good, even though I feel like I use this channel to vent about him a lot because I know he's not watching. Um, but yeah, like, am I ever going to completely understand him? No, because I haven't, I have not lived the same experience that he has, no matter how joined our lives have been for how long. But I can love him. I can experience with him, right? I can be there, but I'm never gonna like. I'm never gonna understand 1,000%, 100. Like, I will get to my own level of understanding, sure, but it's not the same, right? And so being understood, I think it's the same as recognizing I'm gonna have compassion for other people. I'm gonna have empathy. I'm gonna open my heart to them. Like I'm gonna be as much as I can, but I'm still filtering everything through my own lens and my own experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I'll even talk about my marriage. When I was in high school, I thought I met like the person. Like this is the other half of my soul, right? A lot of us have had that experience. And like up until that point, I'd never met anyone like me who grew up in the similar way, like seeing the same things. Like we would go on walks and we'd see the same mythical creatures in front of us. Like it was incredible. And we got married and we were together for 10 years and we experienced a lot of similar things, right? So that's what our basis for understanding was. But it became really apparent that we were completely separate people and we had vastly different experiences growing up, and that had a really big impact on who we were as people and what our behavior was like and how we thought. And now I look back on it and it's like I had no idea who this person was at all, you know? And I think we had our beautiful moments, right? But it's so interesting our perception of others and ourselves, and like we can have that. Like that's an incredible amazing thing that we can do as humans. We can perceive through our own lens, and that's great. But when our time gets taken up trying to understand, that's where things kind of fall apart because we can only understand through our own lens. We don't have the lens of anyone else. So we're never going to have the whole picture. Just like, that's kind of why I don't watch the news and I don't pay attention to who hates what and who's where. And because it's none of my business. And that's not really who those people are on either side anyway. And all I can do is focus on myself. I keep going back to this, but it's like, our understanding grows through experience, like Carrie's saying, like just like confidence. It's really hard. You can reach a base level of confidence by hyping yourself up before you do something new, or believing in yourself, meditating, centering. But until you do it, you're not really going to gain more confidence. You gain a confidence and clarity through experience. And so the same is true for understanding. As I grow in the years and do new things and try new things, I get more clarity on myself. And usually that clarity undermines the clarity I thought I had last year. So grasping for understanding is kind of a fruitless thing, because the more we understand, the more we realize the less we know. I'm never going to understand this. This is not understandable. my puny little human brain cannot possibly fathom the intricacies of the universe or the simplicity of the universe. And so I say, like, do what's fun, right? Understand what's fun, but don't worry about it. It's not something to stop your life about and then dig into, because it's kind of a never ending pit, right?
You had me until never ending pit. That took a dark turn, Rachel. Yes. Yes. And I know we only have like 5 minutes left. And I just want to say that I am someone who I believe I'm super understanding. I am compassionate. I'm empathetic. I am an empath. And one of the dangers of that, which we're all empaths, but one of the dangers of that is I tend to side with whomever I'm with. Right. So, like, if you're talking to me about like whatever's going on, like, I'm like, yeah. And then, like, say you're in a fight with someone or in disagreement, right? If I'm sitting with you, like, I get it from your side. And then if I'm sitting with them, I get it from their side. Like, I'm able to, like, oh, I can see both sides. And there, in the past, I would have said, like, oh, I understand. I understand it. But no, I'm just experiencing one side and experiencing the other side. Yeah, so that's just that. It is one of those things about back to the personality test. That's one of the things about me that is like, oh, I love that about me. And also it's super annoying about me.
I have that too. And maybe it is an empath thing, right? Like, I've always been able to be a little bit more objective when listening to people, because again, everyone has their own life experience and story and frame and lens, and things are going to appear different to different people, and things are going to appear different to you depending on what your mood is. We've talked about that a lot in the aligned up level. You know, when I moved into my house in Phoenix, I experienced a really severe depression, and that's not something I had experienced in a long time, since high school. And it's debilitating, and you really lose yourself. And there's like physical pain from stress. Sometimes there was for me then, and someone on my YouTube channel asked me for a house tour, and I thought they were being really mean and sarcastic. Probably not. When I felt better, I was like, oh, they probably just wanted to see my new house. So it is so personal and so changing depending on where we are vibrationally, which is why our vibration is so important to how we live and function and thrive in the world, and how well we treat others too. If we feel a lack in our lives, then we're more likely to reach out and try to fill a lack in someone else's life. And nobody wants that. Unless you do, and you have a codependent relationship that isn't very fun for a long time. But hey, there's no wrong choice. There's no wrong life path. We all go through ups and downs, and they're all worthwhile. So no judgment here, even though we basically just spouted our judgments this whole hour.
Well, ultimately it all comes back to what we always talk about, right? Which is it's all you. It's all you. And this is like, we're gonna get on here and talk about whatever we want to talk about. We started with unsolicited advice. We went to like all sorts of things, but ultimately it's because it's all us. And what we try and always get back to is, so choose to do the things that feel good. And I was just telling Rachel, I have not been choosing those things. I have been aware that I am choosing differently. Like that I've been aware that, oh man, I have not been meditating, even though I know that's where it all starts for me. And so my unsolicited advice to myself is, Carrie, meditate. Find what feels good and do more of that. So it's just nice. It's just nice to be here and have these conversations and remember that it does all come back to us and where we are vibrationally. Every single conversation that Rachel and I have winds up saying, so relax. You've got this. It's all you. Find what feels good and do more of that.
Yep, definitely. Well, I love that you guys love this conversation. So I love seeing all the hearts and the smiley faces, and I love this, and great. I love it. So if you have any other topics you want us to talk about, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, we will just stumble into them as usual.
This one's been really fun. So thank you guys. Thanks for playing along and for going down this rabbit hole with us. It's been a good one.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we'll see you next week. Go check out intuitiveart.com for your free intuitive art class and get clarity from your higher self. And we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Bye, guys.
Bye.